Hey YouTube, welcome back. Today we're going to be building some brake lines from the 67 Econoline van project. These are what the brake lines looked like on there. All the fittings were kind of all messed up and chewed up, and there was about an inch or so of just water and rust in each one of them that I've pulled off so far. So I thought it'd be a good idea to just go ahead and remake them all. You can get these kits from any of your favorite parts stores, so Harbor Freight or Amazon or wherever you're gonna get them from. I got this kit on Amazon and the copper coated line for under 40 bucks, I believe. So, but if you're gonna be doing this, you're gonna need a few tools. A kit like this is perfect for it. You get a cutter, the press, and the holder, and all your dies here. You'll also need some sort of reamer. I have this one. I don't know where I got it from, but it's pretty industrial and it does a really good job. You just screw it in. I'll show you later, but it's pretty good. And then you'll need a file for cleaning up the surface on this guy. You'll need some brake fluid as a lubricant. You don't really need it that much for this, but it makes it go a little bit more consistent, I think. So without further ado, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take kind of a rough guesstimate of how long your brake line's gonna be. This is the shortest one on there, so I figured I'd start with that one. And you just kind of bend it. You can work at it real hard and get it perfectly straight if you want, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that much. Unless it has to be straight in your vehicle, but this one, it doesn't really. So, I'm just gonna start from here, and we're gonna walk it out. So right around here should be fine. And I only got 25 feet, so I'm gonna be pretty careful. So with these things, all you're gonna do, so you're gonna loosen it up a little bit. You're gonna put it on, and you're gonna tighten down until there's like pretty good resistance. And then what you're gonna do is you're just gonna spin it. And when it gets loose, you tighten up a little bit more. And you just keep spinning. If you have a vise, then that's going to be very beneficial. You can do it without a vise, but it's a lot harder to get a consistent double flare on there, which is what we're going to be doing today, or bubble flare, whatever you want to call it. And there's all kinds of explanations on what kind of flares you should do for brake lines. And you just tighten down and spin around, and eventually it'll come off and fall out of your hands if you're not holding on to it. Yeah. And you don't really want to crank this down too hard because you don't want to crush your line. So you can see it kind of leaves, if we can focus, kind of leaves an imperfect circle there. So what we're gonna do, the first line, you don't really need to have the fitting already on there, but definitely for the second or any fitting where there's already a flare on there. So if you're not familiar with what we're going to be doing, it's going to look like that. Practice on this one. This took like 3 or 4 tries to do, but I think it's because the very end of the original brake line had a pretty decent kink in it. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your fitting on first, if you want. I mean, nothing's going to hold this on, so I'm not going to leave it on there, but you want to make sure your brake line's on there, because if you get it all on there and you get them all flared out, then and you didn't put your fittings on, you're going to have to cut it off and do it again. So there's 2 different sides. There's a flared side and a flat side. You're going to start with the flat side first, and this little bar right here is there, so you can put it in a vise or some sort of holding device. Just tighten that down pretty good so it doesn't move. And you're going to put your brake line in. You're going to put it in whatever size this is. Mine is 3/16. It's pretty standard for brake lines. And the first step, we're going to put it on here nice and flush with this so that we can smooth the surface out with the flat file. And you just tighten it down all the way. It's gonna it's gonna tighten down on it pretty good. Just get it nice and tight. And then you're just gonna there we go. So there's no more resistance. This is perfectly flush with this. You are going to ruin your nice chrome finish on your tool, but that's okay. And then what I like to do from here, now that we have it nice and flat, you can see that it's not round in there because we've pushed material over. So you can see pushed a little material over, so it's not perfectly symmetrical anymore. So what we're gonna do, get you here, dropping you. There we go. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take whatever sort of reamer tool you have. People use a knife. People use all kinds of different things. I like this because it's gonna work just like your other tool. Slip it on there, center it, and it's gonna go down. Should go down. Going to go down, and with this one you just have to be careful you don't go too far down because you're going to ruin the actual pipe. So I just make sure it goes in a little bit, and it just cuts out that perfect center again. And take it back off. And there we go. So now we have a nice hole to start with here. And what you're going to do is you're going to loosen this back up. Just put that anywhere. Set that over here. After you get it all, we'll bevel it over here. You're going to flip it around to the flared side, or whatever kind of side you want to call that. And tighten it down again. This is the side we've been working on, so we're going to put it back in here. So now is the time where the height of this thing kind of matters a lot. So we're going to just get in there, hold it. You're going to take your, I think they call these anvils, and a lot of them will have a secondary, so they'll have a secondary notch or thickness on here. Mine do not. That's probably because the kit and everything included was only $40. So through trial and error, I've found that about halfway up this is where it wants to be. So you're going to set it next to your piece here, and you're going to put it right where you think you need to go. And the more consistent you can be on this, the better all your flares are going to be, and they're all going to be the same, and that means they should all seal exactly the same. Hopefully. Because if you get it on your car and it leaks, you're going to have to just take it off and do it again. So, but there we go. So that's on there. It's getting tight. And you're just going to take your file and just kind of give this a nice, nothing crazy. You don't want to take like a bunch of material off or anything. But just kind of clean up the edges, give it a nice bevel. But you're not looking to take a bunch off, just a little. There we go. So now's the time that you would add your lubricant. You're just going to use brake fluid, and I like to just put a little in the cap. And then put it on, I like to put it on the top here so that that slides around nice, and on the little stud, because that stud goes in there. You just make sure it's got enough on there so that it's not going to bind up on itself or do anything crazy. And the better prep work you do, the better of a result you should get. I'm not going to say it's going to work out perfect every single time, because it's not, unless you buy a really nice expensive tool to do this. So if you're doing a bunch of them every single day, which I doubt any of you watching are going to be doing very much of this. Okay, so, but anyway, next you're going to get this guy, loosen it up, put it on here. Just going to make sure it's pretty center on there. And one last check, make sure everything's tight. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to tighten until you're just going to tighten until this fully compresses down. So let's see if I can get it in the shot here. There we go, right about there. And you're just going to compress it until it stops. And if these aren't tight enough, it'll just push that out, so make sure you get it good. Cool, so that's tight. And we're going to loosen it back up. And you can take this off for a second. Sometimes this will come out nice, sometimes it won't. Sometimes you gotta kind of mess with it pretty good to get that to come back out of there. But you just loosen it. And just twist that. Okay, so we have the makings of our double flare, so that's pretty nice. Still round, it's not squished or off-centered, or the hole's not oblonged. It's pretty good. So what you want to do now is make sure that that hole is deburred again. And this time we're going to put it back in the tool here, and you're just going to seat it flush here. Tighten it down good. And if your hole was like oblonged, or you had like a big deep ridge on there or something, then just stop, cut it off, and try again. Just do that till it's nice. It sucks when you're dealing with both ends of the brake line, because you mess up one side and you have to cut it too many times. You got to start all over. So it's just kind of the name of the game. You're just going to put this in here, and you're not going to take off a bunch of material, just any little burrs that are going on in there. Just take them off. There we go. I had just like a little bit, so take that off. Okay, so now we're going to do another dab of brake fluid on there. And then this time we're going to put it on without the anvil. Hope I'm calling out the right thing. And then you make sure it's centered again. Cool. So just like that. There we go. And you're just going to turn it. You're not going to go all the way down to seat it this time. You're just going to go, I don't go all the way down to seat it because that seems excessive. I just go till it's pretty tight. And I pull it out. And theoretically, we'll end up with a nice looking and nice sealing double flare. And we did. So then that doesn't take any sort of filing afterwards or any of that stuff. And so and there we go. And that's one fitting done. I think I got like 8 or 10 more to go. So one. I'm just gonna, I guess you can see how you would bend all this stuff. You would just start from one end and you would match your bends here all the way through it. And sometimes you can sometimes you can just do the first bend on there on each side and then just kind of bend it to shape and get it to seat on all your clips or whatever kind of mounting structure you have in there. But anyway, that's how you do it. And yeah, so you can see this fits in here nicely still. So that's how you do it, and that's how you get rid of really junky fittings that have been on there for years. And this stuff is copper coated, so it won't corrode like the other stuff did, and it's still pretty strong, so it'll be plenty for what this thing's putting out. So anyway, thanks for watching.